In today's video, we're going to be going over how to handle input files you get with the file operations tool that have special characters in them, and how you can eliminate those special characters using a function within SQL. So normally when you get files using the file operations tools, there tends to be free-form fields in them that have that can possibly have special characters in them. So, anything like a single quote, asterisk, anything that can actually cause an issue within within a SQL command when you try to insert it into a table, because generally you're taking the file that is a flat file and you're then entering it into a SQL table to use that data or house that data for use later, or maybe entering into SAP for expenses, anything like that. So what ends up happening with that file when you try to insert those fields, it causes an error because you have a single quote, and obviously you can't have just a single quote within a SQL insert statement or any SQL statement, because it will throw an error because it needs a closing quotation mark. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use that function quoted identifier in SQL so it doesn't recognize single quotes, and it will actually recognize double quotes for the for encompassing a string, to basically so we can manipulate that string to remove those special characters. So right now we're just getting our file with the file operations tool, and as you saw, I used a wildcard. I'll go back there in a second. And then we're just getting our file from here, so it's the file name, and then the template is going to be that same file right now. One thing I do want to know is if there's a chance that this file is going to have blank fields, you can use the use null value, which will retain that space there, and it will continue to the next column, opposed to shifting the columns over if there was not a space there initially, or there's not a tab there initially. So if I didn't have this ID here in the file that I'm getting from the file operations tool, it would still retain this column if this is checked. So as I mentioned, I used the wildcard feature. Basically, that will grab any text file within this folder here. So the next thing I'm going to do is get our SQL command. And we're just going to, any connection for this is going to work just fine. And I'm going to drop in my SQL statement so I can show you what it's actually doing here. So right now we have the set quoted identifier off. So that's going to turn off the identifier of the single quotes. And if there is a single quote in a string that has double quotes on the outside, it's going to ignore that single quote and just treat it as a normal character. And the double quotes are what it's going to look for a string when there is a single quote in that field. So I'm going to go hit F4 to get our variables from our file reader. Going to get our notes column that has those special characters, and you can see that I'm still using single quotes when there's no chance of a double quotes or a special character being used since this is not a string that's being manipulated. This is an actual literal that we're replacing. So we're looking for the asterisk and then replacing it with a space. These can be single quotes, but in this one, as you can see, since it's a single quote, we need to use the double quotes to encompass this, so that we then can replace it with a blank space. And then once we're done with our statement, we're going to turn the quoted identifier back on. So that's just housekeeping to make sure that we keep everything consistent when we're doing our SQL calls. Now, I happen to use a replace string here to replace all the special character. There's multiple ways you can do this. This is the way I've done it in the past, and it works quite well. You would just have to do this for every field that you're inserting into a SQL table. So let's go ahead and test run this. So if I hit OK, this is just going to ask you that it's not starting with a select keyword up here. And if you want to retain your current settings, just hit no. So if you hit no, it's going to save the string as it is here is going to just save this without changing this command type to a reader. And then we're going to drop in an end. And we're going to save our workflow. And we're going to do a test run so you can see what it's going to do with that string. So let's step through the workflow now, and you can see the values as it grabs them. So we're going to get our file here, and we're going to read that file. And if we actually look at our file reader step, and you check the notes column, you can see that there is a single quote, an ampersand, and an asterisk in that field. And now we're on the clean step, so once we go past that, we can check it, clean string, and then we can look at the field clean string, and you can see that those characters are removed. Now this is a very handy way to use to clean special characters out of a file. While it does, you have to do each individual line, it's a better way than using the VB script because it's using SQL directly opposed to indirectly using another tool. I will show in another video how to use the VB script to remove special characters in a file as well. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.